Look, there are a lot of issues in the world of gaming, and to be frank, I find a lot of it to be stuff that does need to be talked about. I don't particularly like to rant on this channel anymore, but considering I do love to talk about games and I enjoy everything about it, there are issues coming in hot. I've got issues with games costing $70, $80. There are problems with how gaming companies are treating their customers like crap, and I got issues with one jackass trying his best to tank a movement that actually has companies not pull crap like this in their terms of service that require me to destroy products that I paid for simply because they don't want to support them anymore.
No, you could eat my whole ass.
There are a lot of issues happening in the world of gaming, and it almost seems like everything is coming down at once, and it's even bleeding out into other sectors of our life. And like I said, it's all happening right now, and it's something that you, the audience, need to be aware of, which is why I'm actually making a quick video about this subject. I initially was going to bring up mouthwashing early in this video, but unfortunately the composer for it jumped the gun and But there are still thousands of games that were shadow banned from itch.io, and in the previous week, a lot of games were taken off from Steam. All because itch.io and Steam were trying to avoid these issues from payment companies. Now, a lot of people are sensibly turning on the payment processors Visa, MasterCard, and even to some extent PayPal for enforcing these kinds of unlawful censoring. You can dislike the content of these games, you can find it reprehensible, but so long as the games are rated appropriately, that should not be an issue. And I know there's going to be this response because it's been a knee-jerk reaction that pearl clutchers like to pull all the time.
Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?
Children and minors who are under the age of 18 shouldn't have access to these sorts of games and content. I agree, but that's when you remember that parents need to do their jobs. Parents should monitor what their kids are doing on websites. They shouldn't give kids access to the funds that allow them to purchase these games. We had child safety features for a reason, and they should be used to prevent kids from getting onto certain websites from their phones or computers. If you're really interested in protecting the children, then how about you tell parents not to let the internet act as a babysitter? Of course, the bigger issue here isn't some group of Karens from Australia named Collective Shout, despite what some people have you believe. It's actually not payment companies trying to censor stuff, y'all. It's religious right-wing advocacy groups that— oh, shut up! Despite that, people seem to want a memory hold that this isn't the first time that payment processors have pulled this crap. Patreon has a history of changing its terms and services because of payment processors, even to the point where they had to say to creators in the past that if a character has a youthful face, then that can be considered underage despite the body, and even going so far as to check your off-site work to see if that restriction isn't being enforced. Manga Library Z, an online out-of-print digital manga company, was put down last year with its founder Ken Akamatsu outright stating that the reason for it was because of payment processors terminating their services for the website. And last December, Visa's Japanese CEO actively stated that Visa's policy is to make legal and legitimate purchases available as much as possible, but sometimes it's necessary to deny the use to protect the brand. So, I don't want to hear that we shouldn't blame these companies. If anything, if they listen to Collective Shout over this issue, that just means 1, they're spineless because they listened to about 1,000 people emailing them, or 2, they were just waiting for an excuse to crack down on these kinds of content. Especially when you have Visa Japanese CEO outright saying it. There's been a track record of payment companies and processors that pull this garbage, and just because they do this to things and people you don't like, that doesn't make it okay. After all, it only took them a week to go after other things you care about. Even under false pretenses, the thought of a game like mouthwashing that was going to be removed got people mad and worried. Are you just going to ignore what's happening now that a game you like isn't on the chopping block? Yet. So for those trying to make this into a partisan issue, I must say you're not actually helping the problem. And if you're actually defending the companies that capitulate to demands of these Australian loons, then you're effectively showing your ignorance on the subject. Companies like this should not have the power to dictate what we as the consumers can and cannot purchase with our money. Do I like or agree with all the content that got banned? No, but here's the thing. I'm what you call an adult. I can easily choose not to engage with that content. I can easily choose to not care if other people like that content. So long as they're not doing anything illegal, I don't care. And I can easily realize that unless the purchase was made illegally, it's not my business what other people can buy or enjoy. But hey, I guess it's okay that the Gooner games got hit first, right? God, I freaking hate that term. You see, this is how the censorship game is played. Oftentimes, they'll go after things that most people don't want to defend. But that's a slippery slope that will soon go after other things because they'll slightly edge closer and closer to the line. First, it was games that were talking about, like, nasty stuff. But as we've seen, if you outright believe that Collective Shout is what caused all of this, then you should know they have actively targeted games like Grand Theft Auto 5 and Detroit Become Human in the past, and have even supported the banning of GTA 5 from Targets in Australia 10 years ago, getting it off the shelves by manipulating people. Let's say that Collective Shout is the precursor to all this, despite what I've shown you that payment processors have no problem forcing users to do this. Do you believe that they'll just stop with games that, while having questionable content in them, are made for adults even though they've targeted other games before? So if you go after CS, it's not like it's going to stop this sort of thing. And how do we fix this issue? Well, going after Collective Shout isn't really going to work, in my opinion. Not only would they label you as a hateful person to dismiss you, but they aren't the issue here. At least not the bigger issue. The bigger one is the payment processors. They should not have this power in the first place to stop Steam and itch.io from selling you things. What they're doing is crappy stuff, trying to act as moral guardians over content, and they should not have this power to decide what you as a person who has earned your money can and cannot buy. And despite the fact they'll claim that's not what they're doing, if the emails floating around where their responses are being believed, then I'm sorry, but these people just think you're stupid, and that you'll be gaslit into thinking that they didn't just do the thing they did, acting like moral gatekeepers. This is a time where we need to stop squabbling, stop putting things in boxes, and actually stop this crap from happening even more. Left, right, center, it doesn't matter at this point. In addition, there have been some nasty bills, and I am going outside the realm of gaming, but it is something to consider, especially considering Xbox is getting in on this, and even YouTube as well, such as UK's Online Safety Act came into effect restricting the internet for the entire country to protect children, which restricted a ton of sites for people across the pond, including Wikipedia. And the United States is now getting a bill, the Kids Online Safety Act, and another one called the Screen Act, both of which would effectively do the same thing. While the bills are just introduced, it's something you can't be quiet about. And don't get it twisted, the Kids Online Safety Act has co-sponsors from both sides of the aisle, so I don't want to hear that one side is pushing it over the other.
That's what the first line says. To require certain interactive computer services to adopt and operate technology verification measures to ensure that users of the platform are not minors, and for other purposes. That line of dialogue alone is just ominous. You're not going to tell me you're going to read that, and you're not telling me that the vagueness of that is not ominous.
The government thinks you're stupid and will put anything to get control over you. Even saying things like, think of the children. At this point, no. The children are just being used as a shield to deflect against things you do not like. Hell, some politicians have outright said it's not the main goal.
Online safety bill. If it's just about children, is it just about children, or does it focus on adults?
That should be an elite squad.
Sorry, does it just focus?
Protect 13-year-old
I'm sorry,
girls.
the elite squad is not about children. Actually, shall I read you the thing? An elite squad of police officers is to monitor social media for anti-migrant sentiment. I don't think 13-year-olds are engaging that. So, is it also to monitor adults? Simple question, yes or no?
Yes, of course it will.
Okay, there we go. Look, sorry.
And I don't know about you, but doxing yourself to the government or companies doesn't sound appealing, even though they're so incompetent that Death Stranding pics are apparently enough to fool their services. Thank you, Kojima, but I'm also not interested because these companies tend to be so incompetent that they might lose your data. So what can we do about this? Simple. Don't be quiet. If you're in the UK, raise a stink. Sign petitions, particularly the appeal to the Online Safety Act. Yes, I'm aware that the government there basically went, that's nice, but we're still gonna do it, losers. But the people don't work for the government. The government works for the people, and this is not right. You have to make them listen. If you're in America, contact your politicians about the Kids Online Safety Act and the Screen Act. This is nothing more than a vehicle for censorship that will be abused because of how vague the stuff is in it. And getting back to the world of gaming, you need to talk about this. I don't care if you share my video about it, I don't care if you spread my information I'm talking about, we do need to raise a stink no matter what, and we need to tell these payment companies that we do not approve of this. Again, raising your voice is the best way to do about this. And whatever you do, don't give these people a reason to ignore you. Don't back down, but you have to be courteous. I know it's hard, but there's a reason why there's a phrase called kill them with kindness. If you try to act nasty to people online, they will use that and ignore you. These people will do that all the time. Games, and by extension art, should not be dictated by the government or companies, and unless you speak up, they're going to regulate all of this. So, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a good day. I'm MangaKamen, And one last thing, don't sub to me for this video. This is a video that isn't my usual wheelhouse, so I encourage you to check out my other videos on this channel, and if you like them, then I'll ask for a sub. All I ask is, don't fight amongst yourselves, focus on what's important, and that's freedom of expression. I'll end this video with this quote because we shouldn't be quiet. After all,
you must always remember that the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing.